take on the forces of untruth and injustice and hatred and bigotry and superstition anywhere, everywhere in this world, and embrace the whole of humanity as members of my family. No longer I was a Hindu Brahmin. No longer I was just an Indian. In my heart and mind there was transformation taking place. My boundary of love was expanding. Even as I graduated from Calcutta University, did my Masters of Commerce and Bachelor of Laws, MCom LLB, without results. I wrote the last paper, International Law. That was my last paper. I did MCom during night classes, LLB during morning classes, and the whole day I would be earning my whole expenses for my education and other expenses by teaching tuitions, etc., giving tuitions. That way I completed my education in 1963. And the very day I wrote my last paper, I got a job. The results were yet 3-4 months to come. After writing that last paper, I was walking, taking a stroll in the evening on the beautiful Park Street in Calcutta. And there, walking, I chanced upon the football ground of St. Xavier's College, a Jesuit college. I was an Arya Samajist, wearing khaddar dhoti, khaddar kurta, chappal, not very much looking like a Christian. But still I just was taking a walk. And there were priests, Jesuit priests also from Belgium. One of the priests spotted me and said, "Who are you?" I said, "I am such and such." My name was Vepa Shyam Kumar Rao, V.S.K. Rao. So he was just intrigued. He was carrying some beads in his pocket and also chanting, some priest father. So then he asked me what I have studied up to. I said, "Just now finished my last paper and I am going to rest for next 1 week or 10 days, then only I will be fresh. I am very tired." He said, "What are you going to do after?" I said, "Well, once results are out, I will look for a job like any other young man." He said, "Why don't you start teaching in our college? St. Xavier's College, very prestigious college, premier institution." "Teach what?" He said, "BCom honors. Start." I said, "No, how can you appoint me? Because I don't have a degree, MCom, MA degree." He said, No. I have spoken to you these few minutes of conversation. The priest, that father is telling me, Jesuit father, I am convinced that you will be a very good teacher. Come and join us." It was such a, you can see the presence of the divine, the blessing of divine. There's so many occasions in my life. This was something which I had never imagined. When I went back to my friends and told them that, "Look, I got a lecturership in St. Xavier's College," nobody believed. Said, "You are joking." I said, No. Father Principal has given me the appointment. He said, "Yes, start from day after tomorrow." Saturday evening, and said, "Monday morning, 7 o'clock, you take the class, BCom honors." My goodness. So that was, I taught 5 years, business management and law in St. Xavier's College, who later on became the Chief Justice of the Calcutta, from Supreme Court of India. I wanted to be his junior. People said, no, he will not accept unless you have got a very good recommendation. I said, "Who will recommend me? Let me try." One evening at 6:30, I just walked into his house. I knocked at the door. The servant opened the door. "Why?" "I just want to meet Mr. Mukherjee." Then Mr. Mukherjee was sitting in his chamber, looked at me Who are you? I am V.S.K. Rao, sir. What do you want? I want to practice law under you. Why? Because I have heard your name. You are a good lawyer. Okay, sit down, sit down. After 10-15 minutes of conversation, he agreed to get me as his junior. That was another thing. And like this, every time. But in 1967 itself, after 4-5 years of my teaching, practicing, a Naxal movement, Naxal Badi is a village in North Bengal, that started the movement, and the young boys and girls of Presidency College in Calcutta, Scottish Church College in Calcutta, they were joining and making sacrifices, getting killed for fighting for justice for the poor landless labor. I was thrilled and I said, what am I doing? I was dreaming to go to Harvard University and make a good living in United States. I was already in touch with a professor from Harvard who had come to Calcutta, and he was very impressed by my work, and he said he will get me there. So I was dreaming of going to USA. But this movement started, and they were taking up arms, guns, and saying the revolution will grow from the barrel of a gun. But I could not take the gun. I was very, compassionate, kind. I was vegetarian. So I said, no way I can kill anybody. Not even an ant or a chicken or a goat. I cannot. So how can I become an Naxalite? I cannot. But I feel challenged. And I said, if this is their way, what is my way? I cannot keep quiet and say, no, let them do, let them die. If I am doing my job with all the comforts of the world, then this is not the way to feel challenged. I quietly decided to give up my job, my other members of my family, my mother, brothers and sisters. I was unmarried, and then I took a train quietly and went to Haryana to work among the poorest of the poor, the farmers, the laborers, the peasants. That was in 1968, March 25. And the very first day I reached Haryana, I gave up all my clothes, those tie, suit, everything, and I changed into one simple dress, and I would be walking barefoot for 2 years, not eating salt, sleeping on the floor, fighting for the rights and the justice of the poorest of the poor. Non-violent struggle and revolution based on the values of the Vedas and the whole of humanity, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. One day my dream is there will be a world without boundaries, a world without caste system, and a world without class, rich and the poor. With this dream, with this mission, who gave me this mission? Who gave me this dream? The concept of my God. The God which I got from the Vedas is God of love. You have to love the whole humanity. If you want to worship your God, you have to love. If you are not loving each human being, even with whom you have differences, then you are not saying your prayers correctly. If you are not fighting against injustice anywhere and everywhere, then there is something wrong with your whole religious practice. So friends, this is what I wanted to share with you. There can be no place for human God. Human God is just the opposite of the real God. We end up, most of us, worshipping incarnations of God in the human form. Earlier as a child, I would worship Lord Rama, Lord Krishna. And why? I was told they are incarnations of God. How can God take form? Say, no, when there is too much of injustice in the world, then God comes. Yada yada hi glanirvavati bharata, something like that, from the Gita, etc. Some people will recite. Then God comes in the form of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, or somebody, and saves the world. Was God not already there? How can God come? You can come only to a place where you are not already there. If God is all pervasive, inside, outside of every particle of the universe, how can God go somewhere? God can go only if it is not already present everywhere. With me, I can read them out if you want to during your questions, etc. But please try to understand the spirit of my dialogue. I might be disturbing some religious sensibilities, but this is not my objective. I want to share as a friend, as a human being, my own sort of anguish and also my whole liberation. I feel very strongly that whenever we try to localize God in the form of a temple, mosque, or a church, or a gurdwara, and say God is there, sometimes they say this is God's house. Some people claim that they are building a house for God. God creates the whole universe. How can you create a house for God? And the best temple, if you want to worship, is the temple of your mind, inside. मन से बढ़िया कोई मंदिर नहीं है. मन के अंदर जाओ, सबसे सुंदर मंदिर. So God is formless. Let us not compromise on that. Why it is formless? Because God is universal. If you think the whole universe, and how big is the universe, you have some idea about your planet Earth, this world, some idea. But if you want to compare your world with the universe, अपनी धरती को यदि ब्रह्मांड के साथ तुलना करना चाहते हैं तो आप नहीं कर सकेंगे. पता लगाना चाहते हैं कितना बड़ा है विश्व ब्रह्मांड सृष्टि, आप नहीं कर सकते. The scientists are trying their level best to reach out to the other end of the universe. They are saying this is one solar system, but there are millions and billions and trillions of solar systems. And there are trillions and trillions of Milky Ways. And the last and last constellation which they have discovered is very, very far. How far? Kochi, this Trivandrum airport in a jet. At a very high speed, supersonic speed. What is that speed? In 1 second, you travel not 3,000. It is, 3,000 kilometers. 30,000 kilometers per second. Per second. At that speed, if you keep on traveling, then 100 years, then 1,000 years, then 1 million years, then 1 billion years, then 14 billion years, 14 billion light years away is the last constellation which the scientists have found, and they are saying that is not the end, the last course. So harmoniously. Many people say there is no God. You ask them, this fan is running, it must be some accidental fan, or the mic is working because of accident. No. But when it comes to understanding universe and God, say no. There is no such God. I can just link it. So whenever it is time for me to stop and allow questions, you will please let me know. Elizabeth, you have to help me. You are presiding, I think. Justification and God. And love and compassion and justice. The energy of justice, energy of truth all over the universe. The universe is nothing but the manifestation of that energy of love, truth, compassion and justice. You can call such a God by any other name. Now if you believe in one God, are we not children of the same God? All of us? Tell me. Are we or are we not? Are we the children of one and the same God, or are we children of a higher God and there are children like Dalits who are children of a lesser God? Huh? No, we are all children of Abraham Karikenji. You are representing United Religions Initiative here in this August gathering. Huh? In Mangadaji, Palayam Imam. When he was speaking, I could not understand Malayalam, but to some extent he was also referring to this formless God. Correct me if I have not understood him correctly. Because in Islam they talk about Rabbul Alameen. Rabb means God of the whole universe. God has no form in Islam. God has no wife or no husband and no son and no daughter, no children. So very close to this Vedic concept in Islam. In Christianity also, when they talk about God and the prophet, Jesus, the Son of God, and Shaitan, whatever. But the God is like God to a great extent. And it is God who is to be worshipped. In our ignorance, we might be worshipping somebody else. But most of other religions, like Sikhism, yesterday when I was traveling in my Indigo flight from Delhi to Trivandrum, next seat was a Sikh person, Sikh gentleman, who works here in ISRO, this space research. So I asked him, what is the concept of God in Sikhism, Guru Nanak's? And he told me, Ek Omkar, Satnam, Karta Purukh, Nirbho, Nirvair, Akal Murat, that means no form, Ajuni Saibhang, Guru Prasad. These are the first few words of Japji Sahab, written by Guru Nanak Dev himself. This very closely sort of comes to the Vedic concept of God. And what is Vedic concept of God? They might have put some books out there for sale, etc. Those of you who can buy, be good. Vedic concept of God is here in my book, which is called Applied Spirituality for Justice Unlimited. God is existence, intelligence and bliss. God is formless, omnipotent, just and compassionate. God is unborn, endless, unchangeable and unequaled. God is the support of all, the Lord of all. God is omnipresent, immanent, unaging and immortal. God is fearless, eternal and holy. God is the creator of the universe. God alone should be communed with. God alone should be communed with. God. There will be no place for female feticide, because women are equal children with men. A boy is as important as a girl, or a girl is as important as a boy, son. There can be no Brahmin and there can be no Dalit, high or low by birth. There can be no apartheid in the world, no racialism, no division among the black and the white. We are all equal children. Light we are getting, all equally. The same air we are breathing, the same water we are drinking. Now who created the sun and the moon and the stars and the air and the water and everything? God, the Creator. Is there any discrimination? Does anything of the nature of the universe discriminate between rich and poor, or high caste or low caste, or men and women, or black and white? No. You will find no discrimination. It is we human beings, because of our prejudices, we create all these discriminations and injustices and violence. Now we are all engaged in a massive big movement in this country and maybe worldwide. Who knows? We want to abolish corruption. Let us ask ourselves simple question. I know why I used to worship my God every day, 2 hours in the morning and 2 in the evening, even as a child. Even during examination times, I used to go to the temple and worship faithfully. I remember my prayers. I would be asking God, look, I have brought a coconut for you. If I get more marks, I will bring 2. And I will worship you more. I will chant more your name. Please, you can do anything. You are all powerful. I would tell, this would be my conversation in my mind with my God. Even if I have done some mistake in my answer paper, you being all powerful, you can get it corrected. And when the examiner is giving me marks, if he is not giving me enough marks, you can just enter his hand and get more marks for me. That type of ridiculous prayer I used to make with my God. I know many people who are doing business. They go to temple or whatever their religious center. And what are they praying? Most of the time, chanting and praying and doing some bhoga and this and that. In return, they are bargaining. If I am doing so much for you, God, you must give me so much. Corruption involved in our daily prayer. I am sorry to say that. I am not hurting anybody's religious sentiment. But if we closely examine our way we relate to our Creator, most of us end up bribing God. It's not without reason that Trivandrum has one of the richest temples in the world. And you just ask yourself, what could be the reason people gave so much gold and all those wealth to a particular God? People must have gone there to seek some benefits, worldly benefits. You go to Tirupati, there is a hundi, and people go and all their unaccounted wealth they put in the hundi. 9 crores, 15 crores. The check is there. The diamond rings are there. It's not for nothing. There is some quid pro quo. There is some deal being struck. There are many robbers of Chambal Ghati. डकैत होते हैं, डकैत लोग रात को डाका डालने के लिए जाएंगे, उससे पहले देवी के मंदिर में जाके पूजा करते हैं, हे देवी आज रात को इतना बढ़िया डकैती करा दे, तुमको भी हम उसमें से 10% देंगे. All victim to this type of a prayer. Is that not corruption? God has already given us the life, the breath, everything. Instead of being grateful, we are always demanding something. And when we build a temple, we need donations, we need gold, we need that and that. This way, human form of a God Always. Either you are a human being, the living being is a God, or an idol looking like a human being. And that idol, we imagine God in our own image, human image. Christianity said God created man in his image. But in reality, we create God in human image, in our image. And God has all the frailties, because early in the morning our God needs to be given a shower, bath, clothes have to be changed, and then food has to be given. After some time God has to go to sleep, then to be woken up. Now all these rituals are there in our system. What is that? God is not like that. God is the universal spirit. If we can simply imbibe that universal spirit of truth, love, compassion and justice, as Mahatma Gandhi said when he was in South Africa, he said God is truth. When he came to India, he revised it and said truth is God. God is truth, God is love, God is compassion and God is justice. But you can also say truth is God and love is God, compassion is God and justice is God. Division should go. What should be the way? I will finish my speech in 2-3 minutes. Then you can start asking questions. I will give you one anecdote. You might have heard about cartoons of Prophet Muhammad. Some Denmark newspapers published some cartoons of Prophet Muhammad. And the whole world, there was criticism. Particularly the Muslims came out on the streets, they demonstrated, agitated. Immediately they said, of course, Allah is great. Allah is great. There is no comparison between Prophet Muhammad and Allah. Allah is great and Muhammad is only a messenger. And that is how their kalma, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulillah. Muhammad is only the messenger. They don't claim that Muhammad is God or incarnation of God or son of God. No. So I said, when anything violent, but no. They all appreciated what I said. In fact, after my speech, they embraced me. They said, first time we are listening this profound concept of Allah, that every particle of the creation is the messenger of Allah. Every particle. They prevailed upon me to stay one day more. They took me to a city called Qum in Iran. Everybody knows that is the city of Islamic learning. There are thousands and thousands of students from all over the world who go to study Islam in the city of Qum. And I was welcomed with open arms. I stayed in their homes. I ate my food with them, something vegetarian cooked especially, and discussing all this concept of Allah with them. So, friends, I am trying to share this with you. Whether we are born Hindu or Muslim or Christian or Sikh or atheist, whatever. Let us enjoy, let us share this one concept, beautiful concept of the Creator of the creation. And the best way to relate to a God is relating to the creation. Everything in the creation is something to be worshipped, to be loved, to feel compassionate for, even including animals and birds and bees. They are all part of my family. They are not meant to be killed and eaten up. Now this I am saying with some trepidation in Kerala.
A session where each and every one of you can pose a question to Swami Agnivesh on this particular subject, that is gaining true spiritualism in this world of falsehood, and you might be having certain questions about this struggle against human dogmatism and divine or demigods in our state. So I would like you to pose questions in this regard respectively. If you have any queries related to any other activities of Swami Agnivesh, a separate session is being held here tomorrow in the YMC hall itself, where Swami Agnivesh is residing, and you can directly inquire about your other doubts. So I kindly invite each and everyone from the audience to kindly raise their hand before posing a question. Yeah, question number one.
Another thing, I am being a Hindu, a bit of all the Purana and everything we have got through. Everywhere this ignorance is there. Keeping all these scriptures intact, including Vedas, how we can say, how we can go against discrimination about Jati. In Jati, here in Kerala, it is already a very tough question. Narayana Guru, you might be knowing, he has said, one Jati, one Mother, one Daivam, Manushana. So that was like, but again we are coming to Gita. Here also this Chaturvarnya as a philosophy is given. And whether you are disowning all these scriptures before talking about the discrimination in as far as caste is concerned. That is what I wanted to know.
No, it's okay. Mike. You can give me the, I'll just hold it, you stand. This discussion is very, very important. So let us, may I request Varghese George, let us join the discussion. I think it is more important than the speech, because here we are interacting. The beautiful question was raised by my friends that in Rig Veda, I read one mantra at the outset from Rig Veda, Sankachadvam Samvadadvam, and he is saying that in the Purusha Sukta, what I read was from Sangathan Sukta, but in Purusha Sukta, there is a mantra which says, Brahmano asya mukham asit, bahu rajanya krita, tad uru tad vaishya, shudro padabhyam ajayata. That is the mantra. From where they say that Virat Purush, the God, the Brahmin was born from his mouth or head, and the Kshatriyas from his arms, shoulders, and Vaishya from his stomach, and Shudras from his feet. And that is how the lower and the higher caste system started. Now this was the interpretation for I don't know how many years, centuries. Very unfortunately, people believed this type of an interpretation. But why I love or respect Swami Dayanand? He gave a very radical scientific interpretation to the Vedas, not only in this issue, on many other issues. He says that nobody is born from the mouth or from the arms or from the feet. We all take birth in a similar way. That is why we are one species, human beings. Saman prasvatmika jati. All those who are born alike, the coming together of male and female, they constitute one jati. Please try to understand. The elephant is one jati, the horse is one jati, the ant is one jati, human beings are one jati. The male and female coming together and then giving birth to the progeny, they constitute one jati, Saman Prasvatmika jati. Now the question is, what is the meaning of that Purusha Sukta, that mantra. Swami Dayanand says, whoever in the society, whoever, a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or a Brahmin or a Dalit, whoever in society wants to do the work of the head, that means spread knowledge, ज्ञानेंद्रियां यहाँ पर पूरी हैं, आँख नाक कान मुंह, ज्ञान को जो बढ़ावा देंगे, विजडम एंड नॉलेज, whoever spreads knowledge is a Brahmin, not by birth, by guna karma swabhava, by action, talent and aptitude. You may be born anywhere, but if you are a teacher, if you are preaching, if you are giving, spreading knowledge and truth, then you are a Brahmin. And if you are fighting injustice, like the arms fight injustice, भुजाओं से हम अन्याय से लड़ते हैं, you are a Kshatriya. Doesn't matter where you are born, which family, which person. And just like the stomach takes all the food, doesn't keep it to itself, immediately give it back to the whole body. You know, if it is a healthy person, otherwise you have got the bulging belly, those who keep all the food to themselves, the stomach. But if in a healthy body, the food immediately after being digested has to be given over to the whole society. That is Vaishya. And the serving class, now the service sector is becoming the biggest sector, the IT professionals and all of them, you know, they are Shudra. There is nothing derogatory in this. We are all parts of the same body. According to our action, talent and aptitude, guna karma swabhava, we are given a division of labor or a classification. It's beautifully interpreted. In Gita, which is again being misinterpreted, Chatur Varnam, they hear the word Chatur Varnam, immediately say, okay, look, Krishna is also propagating Chatur Varna, Brahman, Kshatri, Vaishya, Shudra. No, in the same thing, it is Chatur Varnam Maya Srishta Guna Karma Vibhagasha, not Janmasha. The Gita mantra says, Chatur Varnam Maya Srishta Guna Karma Vibhagasha. This is the mantra. What? Guna Karma Vibhagasha, Guna Karma. By action, talent and aptitude. Chatur Varna has not to be based on birth. It has to be based on a person's actions, talent and aptitude. This is what Krishna is saying. So simple. No.
The interpretation which you are trying to give is already discussed 100 times, 1000 times here in Kerala, and there we have never reached to any solution for this thing. About Guna Karma Vibhagacha, if you say that on the basis of Guna and Karma, if 4 sections are created, then you know scientifically that every man is separate by Guna and Karma. So there will be thousands and thousands of jadis will be here, not only 4. So this is all the interpretation which we hear thousands and one times about the Purusha Sukta also. The Samajists can create all those things and they always adhere to these scriptures, and the scripture will be again taught there, not with this interpretation. The poor people will be reading by its own way.
Yeah.
Sri Krishna also made a mistake there. Krishna has made a mistake there, telling, channelizing only 4 varnas. If 1001 varnas are created here, if he has told, it would have been correct. So again this 4 is a misclaiming. And then again we are coming to Manusmriti. Things will be again very much discriminatory, repressive and regressive.
Thank you.
We do not want such type of interpretation, Swami.
Yeah, thank you. Well, my simple request is, there will be 1,000 types of interpretations of your scriptures. What is my duty? As a man being born and living in this 21st century, should I go by an interpretation which is dividing people, which is responsible for the exploitation of the people and discrimination of the people? Or should I go by an interpretation which is more rationalistic, more humanistic, more inclusive? What should I do? I may not fully 100% agree with this or that interpretation, but between the two interpretations, one which is justifying birth-based caste system, another saying if there has to be some division